afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, sir.
This I put a slide specifically because I was told that this is going to be a post-lunch session. Very challenging, very difficult for you to come out of your sleepy zone. But I love this part. I love this part because things have to restart and change again, and we need to start again. So this is the post-lunch session, but let's move from here into the right thing. Yeah. First of all, of course, I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. I'm an alumni of Hansraj College. This particular stage, I used to come very often. 30 years back, when I was doing my economics honors, I had another very famous batchmate, classmate of mine, which is Shah Rukh Khan, who was with me in my same class, 3 years. And we did plenty of plays and activities together on this stage exactly 30 years back. Confluence, which was the annual festival which was there. But thank you so much for inviting me, the organizers over here of Illuminate. Yeah. My confession first. I am not an entrepreneur in the true sense. And why I say that is because typically, as what you've heard of many speakers before me, are people who have started their business, taking financial risks, leaving their jobs, asking money from their parents, from their dear ones and others, or taking financial risk, which is typically what an entrepreneur does with an eventual profit. I'm not that. I am that strange breed, which actually is a corporate executive who did create businesses which were new and they made profits, but the financial risk was not mine. I always had another company, a company to back me up on the finance part. And that's an honest confession, and therefore I would want to start my whole my speech or my talk basis that understanding the new is there. Yeah. So let's just move to the time that I started working. And when I was working before that, very important to understand is that when you were in a college like Hansraj, there were just two options. Yeah? Either your father had a business of his own and you would join that business, or you would go into service, which is what I had to do. But I think in 1991, there was a change which was happening not only in India, and that's what I'm depicting over here, is that there was a change which was happening globally. The global change, of course, the first one was that the communist god was dead, the Cold War had ended, the Berlin Wall had come down, yeah. And then there was this huge thing about opening up the gates in India. Now all this was leading to what? All this was leading to a stage in which a huge amount of investments flew into India. And when investment flows in, we know that if capital flows in, it looks for talent. Talent which wants to experiment and do things. And which is what exactly happened in the 90s. And we, that generation, were blessed to be there at that exact sweet tooth time. We had an opportunity in which things wanted to be changed and could be changed, and there was capital available to do that particular part. Before that, in the earlier decades, that was not the case. Yeah? So, what changed in those first few years? I'm talking about from 95 till about 2005. We had, of course, we became from a common man to now what you guys are called the millennials. But more than that, before that, we just in Delhi, everybody would have told you, your parents would have told you, was there was only one restaurant that you would go out to for a QSR, which was Nirula's. And now what do we have is all known. We had earlier only two cars, which was a Premier Padmini and an old Ambassador car. And what do we have now? We had a phone which was shared, a rotatory phone which was shared maybe by 5 families and 5 different households. And now we have that there is a smartphone which is available to even the rickshaw guy. So these are the changes which have come about over the years. And the change is that we were moving from a person who was earlier doing only saving, to a person who is now only spending. This is the consumer psyche which has changed. So my father and his father And I would say that anybody who's been touched directly or indirectly by the partition, that's the line which I draw. If they were touched directly or indirectly by partition, they are the believers only in saving. Whereas that particular generation which is not touched directly or indirectly are the ones who are spending. And what does spending lead to? Spending leads to that you are going to experiment in consuming things. And therefore the producer also becomes experimental in producing. And therefore with this experiment a right thing comes out which is liked by both the producer and the consumer. But that experiment happens. It is not limited to what a license raj, which is the government deciding of what should be produced and how much should be produced. Yeah. So we were moving from a license raj to a consumer raj, as I call it, but I still required a job. This is a famous quote which I quote to everybody. While I was joining a company, and that was very important in those days for my father, because he was not a believer of what the Britishers used to say, that, you know, a man is known by the company he keeps. As per him, a man was known by the company which keeps him. So, which is the company that you're working for? Are you working for Tata? Are you working for Birla? Are you working for a public sector, which is an Indian Airlines or Air India? That is when, you know, you really come up in life. So, those were the thinkings at that time. How did they change? Yeah. 91, when I joined the Times of India. This is the old shot of the Times of India building in Bombay. It was called at that time the Old Lady of Goribandar, just opposite the BT station. And when I joined that company, there was a very strange thing which was happening. People were getting recruited from FMCG backgrounds. Okay? There were people who were moving in from Hindustan Levers. There were people being recruited from Colgate-Palmolive. There were people getting recruited from ITC, a tobacco company. There were people at the senior levels getting recruited from automobile companies. And that was shocking to me of what is it that this media company is trying to achieve. This is supposed to be an editorial company. So is somebody who's going to come from these industries going to talk nice about media, about editorial? Is his write-ups going to be much more meaningful? No. It's about how that product, which is a newspaper, is to be distributed out in the market. That required change. That required a new thinking. And that is what the company was investing in. The new generation of the Jains were investing in that particular knowledge. How is it that the products are distributed in the market? How is it that the margins are to be shared with the suppliers in the market? And because of that, when we get advertisers, how do we get a higher share in advertising money from people like Levers? Is why we took people from Levers, from Colgate-Palmolive. This is a change in thinking. That's what an entrepreneur does. He looks at an opportunity which is there and he challenges the status quo. He challenges that, boss, this is not the way that things need to exist anymore. It needs to change from here to a new thing which I can think of. And then your thoughts come in and a solution comes in. So that's the changes which Times of India was talking about. They were talking about, at that time, 92, turning a paper pink. And we said, pink? A paper is a paper. What will the color of the paper, will that make the editorial change? How will that change? But it was just the way that a person sitting in a particular place would feel empowered. I am reading the Economic Times because the paper was pink. Nobody would see Economic Times, but because the paper was pink, I feel empowered and I felt special. That's why people started buying more Economic Times. Just because of the color of the paper. Understand that point. That's similar to Lux or Lil coming out with a new packaging for their soap. Right? It is a similar thing. That approach is what brought about the huge jump in circulation in both the Times of India and Economic Times, which they had not seen for decades or ever. But as circulation increased, what goes up together with circulation going up? Ad revenue goes up. Which is what is the business all about? Media business is about increasing your ad revenue, increasing your yield per square centimeter of the newspaper that you sell. This is the understanding which came from outside to them. I was lucky to be also part of, they pitched for being the first Hindi satellite channel. Of course, they lost out to ZTV at that time. And then there was another thought which came to me because I saw a small ad in the newspaper way back in 93, sorry. In 93, which talked about that the All India Radio was giving away FM frequencies away. So that's when we approached to the management and said that yes, we've lost out on the television opportunity, but is it that we can, do radio? It's again a medium, and we should, being a media house, do that. And we were scorned and told, who listens to radio? And what is FM? FM at that time was only medium wave and shortwave. Nobody had ever heard of FM. Anyway, things changed and they agreed because the investment was small, and we entered, and the rest of course is history because out came Radio Mirchi from that particular experiment of ours. And I was part of that. So that's how I think I relate myself to being an entrepreneur, because these were new businesses which were coming up. They were giving profits eventually, but of course the financial risk was taken off by the Times of India Group. That's there, yeah. Later part of my life, this is the change. I worked for Walt Disney and MTV. MTV again, changes happening at that time. It was moving away from being the snobbish English music channel to being now a Hindi channel. From a Hindi music channel, they wanted to get into shows. And at that time, luckily, we started this show called the MTV Roadies, and it still exists. But that was again a change in thought of how a new format can come into a music channel. And it's worked brilliantly, so much so that I think the music channel no longer is called the music channel, it's called the youth channel. Okay, on to the main story, GoIbibo, because of which I think I've been called over here. I work for the best of MNCs, which is Walt Disney or MTV or even Times of India, but nobody invited me, so far. It's only now that, GoIbibo has become something and is acknowledged as doing something good in its sphere of travel, that, this invitation to me has come. But this, reaching GoIbibo was not something when I had joined in 2009 the Ibibo group, which came suddenly and was given to us on a platter that this is what you have to do. This was a garage operation. We were actually wanted to become the Indian Facebook. We will have a social gaming site called Ibibo Games. People will play games and there will be a social network behind it, and I will make micro transactions, money out of it. But I think by mid-2009 it was clear that just like search, Google is from 1 to 100. Similarly, in the name of social, it will be Facebook, from 1 to maybe 1,000. So there's no point in competing. And therefore, we started saying that if you have close to about 5 million people who are coming into the site, what do we do? And therefore, we thought of travel at that time, because travel at that time, believe it or not, but was the largest e-commerce segment at that time. If there were 100 e-commerce transactions happening at that time, 80 were travel related. The product e-commerce came much later. Yeah, so therefore, it was just a hit and trial. And therefore, as I was talking to people over here, I was telling you that this is not by design that we move into something. Today's world is changing every day, and we look at opportunities every day of what is possible. We look at what is going wrong in the way things are happening and find solutions. So what did we look at that time? We looked at that there was unreliable experience that people were getting of the bookings that they were doing online. Yeah, so let me have slides on that. I would book a hotel, not get a room over there. I would go to a hotel and say, not in A, I will shift you to B. Now imagine a person who's worked the whole day, reaches the hotel at about 10:30, 11 o'clock and is told, sorry boss, I'm full up, but I can get another room which is just, here, about 9 kilometers away. So take a scooter, a chooch, an auto, and just 9 kilometers. So it will take you what, about 40 minutes. So by 12 you'll be there, and then, but boss, what is the guarantee my room will be there? Well, I have spoken to him. Yeah, but I have spoken to you also. And your room is not available, so I don't know whether that room will be available or not. These are the apprehensions which were there earlier in the minds of consumers, because of which, as per us, the inroad into the offline world by the online travel companies was not happening. If the fulfillment is not happening, there is no way that the business can grow. You can't go to a shop and say, here is 10 rupees for a Maggi, and he says, please wait, I will give you after half an hour. Or I don't have Maggi, I have something else, can you take that? Those things don't happen. And if they happen, then business doesn't grow. Similarly, online is a similar one. Here you are making people move from offline to online and therefore have to work harder, not being worse off. So I think those are the problems that we solved. Then of course, of the personal experiences that they were having at the hotels, what they were promised and what they were getting. Beds and linen being wrong, the AC not working, yeah, the pool is this, actual pool is this. These are genuine photographs taken by people. And the nucleus of the problem is what? That the whole world, sorry, Plaza which is old. I think I met somebody from Plaza when you were here. But this is the offline world which worked only on a register in which the booking is there. Whereas the consumer has moved to the smartphone. And that marriage has to happen. That digitization of both the supply side and the consumer has to happen. The consumer is happening, and I need to do things so that his interface with the supply side becomes better. That is what I need to invest on. Yeah. So this is where we saw that there was a huge opportunity, because 5 million rooms are available to sell every day. 5 million rooms every day to sell in India. I'm not talking about the global market. And what do? Yeah. Just look at first of how, with what speed you're able to do the booking. So the first part was speed. Now this I'm talking about the core mantras of e-commerce. Whatever platform that you create, the first thing most important is speed. Speed with which your site opens. Speed with which you move from one page to the other page and finally to the transaction page. And finally the transaction happens. If all these steps you are failing and are not improving day by day, please close shop and go home. It's like saying, it takes me 25 minutes to enter a Shopper Stop. Will you go to Shopper Stop again? No. The moment you see a long queue somewhere, you will walk out. Similarly, when I have touched a button to get into GoIbibo, it needs to open instantly. And it needs to move faster than whoever else is there as competition to us. So speed, very important for us. Reliability and trust. That's again, as I said, and showed you examples of how people were not trusting the online space because the fulfillment was not happening. I was giving my money, hard-earned money, but I was not getting the product which I was promised. And on that is where we said we will work on a zero bounce. Zero bounce means there is no way that a person will stand at the reception and be told that you do not have a room. Even if we have to pay for an upgraded room in that property or an upgraded hotel itself. So if you booked a 3-star, you move to a 5-star. So this is a hint to you. GoIbibo, this is what happens. So, by any chance you do not get the room, GoIbibo will ensure that you get upgraded to a 5-star property. Yeah, even at a cost. That's us. Sorry, this is back. And the third one, refund. Very important. If I have cancelled my transaction, how soon do I get the money? And the earlier part was that it took 2 to 3 weeks time. So boss, if I don't have money in my credit card back, how do I make the next transaction? The limit in credit cards of people is 40 and 50,000. Travel transactions are big. they are worth 15 and 20,000. So if you don't return me my 15 and 20,000, how do I make the next booking? And therefore, we started investing into the refund process, and we now refund in 1 hour flat. And just like Domino's, if I do not refund in 1 hour, we will penalize ourselves, and therefore there is an X amount of rupees that you get extra for every hour delay which I do for the refund part. That's how we bring reliability and trust. And of course, new things. Yeah? So, but the most important, of course, is the user-generated content, which is we empower the user who's going to the hotel to say, boss, this is what is advertised by the hotel or what they are, but the actual property is this. Very important. User-generated content. You've heard of TripAdvisor. We don't use TripAdvisor. We have our own user-generated content, which is more pictorial. Rating and review. They write reviews and they rate the properties. Basis that is when you start selecting, and this is where I'll just take 30 seconds on this particular part. Very important. We've created what we call as the double-sided network effect. So on one side we have the biggest supply which is possible in the hotel industry build up, and on the right hand side we build up a big community. But the way the two interact is through the user-generated content which the customer staying at the property is creating. He feeds his pictures that he stayed in to the hotel, and hotel realizes where he is goofed up, where they've gone wrong, rectifies that, and therefore moves on, and rectifies that, and therefore there's a better fulfillment. Similar information not only goes to the hotel but also goes to other consumers who want to go and stay in Shimla at a similar property, and they see that is it this property snow covered which I'm seeing, or is it another property, and the true picture comes out, and therefore this double-sided network. Yeah. So, yarn, holy grail of e-commerce, very important. Price. Price is oxygen. If you are going into the e-commerce world and you start your own business in that particular part, your price is incorrect. Your price is incorrect. Price is oxygen. If there is no oxygen, you will not survive for more than 2 or 3 minutes. Second, selection. Selection is the most important thing after price. You have to have the best selection possible in the whole industry. You cannot have somebody else having a better supply. Yeah. Third, convenience. How easy it is for you to get the product that you have ordered. We at GoIbibo inundate you with messages after message after you bought. But this overexposure is still okay. It's okay because he doesn't mind. As long as he's being told, boss, room mil gaya hai, the air ticket is got, the plane will move at this time, the plane is delayed or whatever. All the information, extra information that you can give is all welcome, and he will not feel bad about it. Why? Because he's bought it. But he just wants to know, when do I get my stuff? If I order today and I tell my kirana wala to deliver, he takes 2 hours and you can deliver in half an hour. That's the opportunity which is existing right now. Yeah? If there's a guy in Karol Bagh who wants to fix stereos, but there's somebody who comes and says the best stereos in the world and I have the best selection, and all that fitted in your home in the next half an hour and 45 minutes, that is the solution which is there existing, and so on. So that's the convenience. Yeah. Then of course how you spend your money, it has to be more. E-commerce world, people have to spend less on the big advertising. That happens only when the big daddies come in. Till that time, I think you have to take the first baby steps. Baby steps are in which you get the idea right, idea that you've moved in, and in that idea, the price, selection, convenience, all that right. And the big thing which is now there in your hand is the mobile. Mobile provides you what? Next. Mobile is a beautiful device which is now in hand. First 250 million people in India will be able to access internet, will be able to do e-commerce work, purchase, sale of things, and that's a huge number. You know, the Russian population is only 150 million, for example, and it's bigger in size than India in GDP. But what does mobile offer? It offers you you location, it offers you a connection to your friends of friends, which is most important. Marketing in e-commerce is not about creating a Twitter handle and having a Facebook page. That is old world thinking, one to many, old world thinking. The new thinking is I need to utilize your social graph. I need you to do something that I need to excite you so that you go forward and inform your 500 friends of my message. And out of that 500 people, they further go and talk about me. And that's how the whole social graph is utilized. That is what social marketing is all about. And it doesn't cost a penny. It just costs an idea. Yeah? Next. So just examples of how location, all of you must be using Uber now and are seeing of how that is helping. Similarly, we also do in Red Bus, our bus site, and how the benefits are coming because of that. Hotels, wherever you are, you reach the airport, how close is the airport, the hotel to you? Yeah. Then of course, sharing the pictures of the property through WhatsApp. And reviews and ratings. Personalization, I can choose a seat. The girls can choose a seat which is only a lady's seat. And no guy can be sitting next to her, and therefore she is safe to travel from here to Chandigarh, feeling safe. So this is my last slide. This is my mantra on e-commerce. The customer is lazy. Our job is to make him lazier. Take laziness to gravity. He should not even, it's like, you know, when you load a Microsoft software, it is next, 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 next. So why do you require 4 next? Why can't it be just 1 next? So each click is important because on each click you lose traffic. Each time that you provide somebody to ask him something, वो एक short fuse होता है यहाँ. So some people lose out and go out. So it's very important that we make the whole user interface in such a manner that there are as less clicks as possible. That's my plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your profound knowledge and your story. Due to shortage of time, we are cutting down on the question and answer session. You can interact with sir later. I would like our co-president, Vishal Dugani, to please facilitate.
We have just 2 questions, I've been told.
Sir, how do you deal with the growing, sir, the competitors, sir?
Competition?
Yes, sir.
So we identify competition more as the offline world. We are trying to bring the offline world online. And in whatever that we are doing, the online world, there are plenty of other players who are doing this effort with us. We should be beating them. That's
so
how we look at competition.
Also, there is a lot of competition like GoIbibo and Make My Trip. They're similar of the time, sir.
Yeah, Make My Trip is like 15 years old. It's just come 4 years back.
They have a different customer, you have different. So how do you beat that, sir?
So the core focus, Vita, is that we look at first the offline world. The online definitely is there, but the main competition is with the offline world. So to give you numbers, in hotel, for example, the penetration of online, all of us, you know, Make My Trip, Yatra, Clear Trip, GoIbibo, Booking.com, Expedia, Agoda, all that is not more than 12%, which is that 88% of hotels in India are still bought offline. Now, should I look at that 88% or should I look at the 3% or 2% which somebody else has? That's how we approach.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, in general, GoIbibo pays like more than 50% more to the hotel than it takes from the consumer. What is the logic behind it? Like it pays to hotel 1,000 and charges from the customer 1,200. What is the logic behind this? Now,
how much does it charge from the hotel?
It pays to the GoIbibo pays to the hotel like 2,000 and charges from the customer 1,200.
Yeah.
So how is it fulfilling its loss? So what is the logic behind such a?
So I'm investing in the business of the hotelier. So this is a very important question, guys. Boys and girls, please listen to this clearly. Everybody looks at e-commerce today as doing discounting. Yeah, that's what the question is. That if the property is for 2,000, then how is it that you are selling it at 1,200? I'm investing in the business of the hotelier. Because believe you me, right now, if he has 100 rooms, to sell inventory, he gives me only 5. And the 95 is given to offline. I have to become that big in his whole ecosystem that I start becoming 20 to 25% of the sold inventory. Then he starts listening to me. So it is not into the customer, unfortunately. Of course it is. For customer, it is the fulfillment. I think that's where it is more important. But to the hotelier, it is about investing in his business. Once I start investing in his business, my executive goes in the market and speaks to that same hotelier and says, "Sir, aapne to 2,000 rupees mange the." Right? We are 2,000 rupees. But I am giving to the customer 1,200 or 1,400. Aapko problem? He says, "No problem." Very good. So you think I am better or offline is better? What do you think he will say? Where does he give more inventory then? If I have more inventory and which is a better, more unique and better supply, who sells more? That's the answer. Yeah?
Sir, how much time it will take to you to recover that money you invested?
Yeah, so that's a question which is asked by our finance team every quarter. It depends on the amount of territory that you want to occupy. We can become profitable today, but it's like, how much do you want to go further? The total market is 5 million rooms. You are doing 1% or 10% of that. How further do you want to go and then stop?
So you are telling me like, you are just filling a checkpoint. After 5 rooms, you are just start to make profit. After that, you start to make loss, then profit, then loss, then profit.
No, you continue making losses. And you reach a threshold where you think that I can stop now. So I can stop right now because I reached that level and reduce the discounting and become profitable if that's the requirement of the business and of the investor.
So without profit, how will you survive?
Sorry?
Without profit, how will your company survive?
Without profit?
Yeah.
Okay, ask that question to Uber right now, who's been running for the last close to about 4 years. There are enough investors who are there in that company. Ask that to Ola. Ask that to when I think even Amazon started, and the first 12 years, 13 years, there was nobody, there were so many people who were already investing in them. It takes time, beta. It takes time, but because the value that you are creating, you look at it from a loss perspective. We see that the amount of market share that you are garnering, which was earlier 2%, has now become 25%. The loss that you were doing on per unit economic, which was 40%, has now become 15%. These are the economics quarter on quarter, which is to be shown to the investor that I am acquiring more market share and I am reducing the losses. This eventually will lead to a place in which I am the number one, and I am a number one by a huge margin, where the number two can't challenge me, and then the profits can come. Yeah? Thank you, everyone.